When the grease fire erupted in the back kitchen, most people panicked. Young employees screamed. Customers backed away. Someone reached for their phone to call 911. But the quiet barista didn't hesitate. He moved through the chaos with military precision, controlled the flames, organized the evacuation, secured the area. It wasn't until later, when a customer thanked him for his service, that everyone realized the man making their morning coffee had once commanded a tank crew in Afghanistan. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story of respect, sacrifice, and hidden past, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure they are. Blue Mountain Café had claimed its spot on the corner of Main Street like it had always been a natural part of the landscape, small, warm, furnished with wooden tables and old brick walls. It opened at 6 a.m. and closed at 8 p.m. Inside, there was always the smell of fresh coffee and the soothing rhythm of jazz, playing softly from the ceiling speakers. Marcus came in every morning at 5:30, before the other employees, before the customers. Before sunrise, he would slide his key into the door, turn on the lights, and begin preparing for the day. He'd grind the coffee beans, heat the machines, prepare cream and sugar. Every movement calculated, every step efficient. Customers called him Marcus, because that's what his name tag said, but none of them knew his last name. In the records, it just said Chen. He was a man in his mid-30s, medium height, with calm brown eyes. He never raised his voice when speaking, and when he smiled, it was genuine, but there was something in his eyes, as if he was always scanning his surroundings, as if he was always calculating one step ahead. The first customers were usually the morning rush crowd, heading to work. Large coffees, quick orders, credit card, payments. Marcus handled them all quietly. "Good morning," he'd say. The usual. Most customers knew him, and knew that he knew them. But no one paid attention to his hands. Or when they did, they assumed it was kitchen accidents. Marcus's hands told stories, but he never told them. There was a small, white mark between the thumb and index finger of his right hand, parallel lines on his left wrist, dots of brown spots on his knuckles. Most people assumed these were burn marks, espresso machine burns, hot oil splashes. Kitchen accidents. The truth was much deeper. In 2008, in Helmand Province, Sergeant Marcus Chen was the commander of an M1A2 Abrams tank. The tank they named Steel Thunder had been their home during a 15-month deployment. His crew, Jenkins, Rodriguez, and young Kowalski, were his responsibility. And that day, when the eye hit the tank, Marcus had lifted burning metal pieces with his bare hands to save his crew. Jenkins's leg was trapped. Rodriguez had lost consciousness. Kowalski couldn't breathe. Marcus first pulled out Kowalski, then carried Rodriguez on his back, and finally lifted the metal plate that had fallen on Jenkins. His hands were burned that day, but all 4 men made it home. He never received a medal. He never gave interviews. He just wrote the report, received treatment, and continued his service, That Wednesday morning was like any other. Marcus came in at 5:30, made his preparations, greeted the first customers, Sarah, the nurse, large latte, David, the accountant, double espresso, Lisa, the teacher, cappuccino, and a muffin. Around 8:30, the morning rush had died down. Marcus was washing dishes in the back section. Jenny, a 19-year-old part-timer, was standing at the counter. Alex, a 22-year-old barista assistant, was storing newly arrived coffee beans. In the kitchen, onions were being sautéed in a pan on the stove. It was prep for lunch sandwiches. Alex hastily grabbed the pan from the stove, but the handle was hot. He dropped the pan. Oil splashed everywhere. On the stove, on the wall, on papers that had accumulated on the floor. The flame grew instantly. Fire! Alex yelled. Jenny screamed. The 6 customers in the shop jumped up. Someone reached for their phone. Another ran for the door. An elderly man couldn't get up from his table. Looking around in panic. The flame jumped to the counter on the wall. Smoke began spreading rapidly. When Marcus raised his head from the dish sink, he had gone back 30 years. Smoke, screaming, panic. He knew these. This was chaos. This was a situation, and situations needed a commander. Jenny, he shouted, with an authority in his voice they had never heard. Get the fire extinguisher from under the counter. Now, Jenny was frozen. Marcus ran to her side, pulled the extinguisher from under the counter, pulled the pin. Alex, turn off the gas. Turn the pink valve on the right. He advanced toward the flames. Systematic, controlled movements with the extinguisher. First at the source of the flame, then where it had spread. The smoke was thickening, but Marcus could hold his breath. Everyone out, he commanded. Jenny, take the old man. Alex, shut off the electrical panel. As customers evacuated, Marcus fought the fire, holding the extinguisher with his left hand while moving flammable materials away from the flames. Path. With his right, his hands touched burning metal, but he didn't care. 3 minutes later, the fire was out. The smoke cleared. Marcus set the extinguisher down, opened windows, turned on ventilators. Only then did he begin to feel the pain of burns on his hands. When the fire department arrived, they found Marcus outside. He was rinsing his hands with cold water, but not complaining to anyone. The firefighter looked at his hands. These burns aren't fresh, he said. New burns over old scars. Marcus shrugged. Work accident, he said simply. One of the customers, a middle-aged man who had helped get Jenny outside, approached Marcus. His name was Tom Morrison, a retired soldier. But Marcus didn't know this. Son, Tom said quietly, that organization, that command, military training. Marcus stopped. He dried his hands with a towel, looked at Tom. Once upon a time, he said simply. Tom looked at his hands more carefully. The shape of the burn marks, parallel lines, the color. Tank? He asked. Marcus's breath caught. No one had asked in years. No one had noticed. Abrams. He finally said. Helmand. Tom nodded. He himself had been a tank operator in Vietnam. He recognized these marks. Saved your crew? He asked. Marcus didn't want to answer. But there was something in Tom's eyes he recognized. Understanding, respect. All four, he said quietly. After the firefighters left, Jenny and Alex talked to Marcus. Both were in shock, but for different reasons. Marcus, Jenny said, "How? How did you know what to do?" Marcus was looking at his hands. New burns had, mixed with old scars, experience. He said. Alex was curious. "What military unit were you in?" Marcus didn't want to answer. But these kids were his responsibility. Today he had to protect them. Maybe they had a right to know. 3rd Armored Division. He said, "I was a tank commander." "For how long?" Jenny asked. "2 deployments. 3 years. And you never mentioned it." Marcus shook his head. It stayed in the past. But it hadn't stayed. It never had. He carried it with him every day. In the scars on his hands, in sleepless nights, in his reactions to sudden sounds. He had just hidden it. The next day the cafe stayed open. The damage wasn't too extensive. Mostly smoke damage. Marcus came in at 5:30 as usual. But this time Tom Morrison was there too. He had a box of coffee in his hands. "I thought," Tom said, "that is one veteran. I owe another veteran coffee." Marcus smiled. It was the first genuine smile in a long time. During the day, other customers came too. When news of the fire spread, so did the story of how Marcus had acted. People looked at him differently now. Not just the man who made coffee, but the man who saved lives. One customer, Linda, a retired teacher, said thank you as she picked up her cappuccino. For the coffee, Marcus asked. "For your service," Linda said, "and for yesterday." Marcus didn't know how to respond. No one had thanked him in years. Weeks passed. Different customers were now coming to the cafe. Veterans, Tom's friends, military families, people who had learned about Marcus's past. One morning, a young soldier came in. His uniform read Martinez. He looked at Marcus, looked at his hands. "Sergeant," he said, "are you the man who saved the tank crew?" "Kowalski was telling us your story." Marcus was frozen. "You know Kowalski? He's our instructor." Martinez said, "He still talks about you. He's looking for you." Marcus's hands trembled. He hadn't seen Kowalski in 3 years. That evening, Marcus called Kowalski for the first time. "Marcus." There was disbelief in Kowalski's voice. "Buddy, where are you?" "I'm home," Marcus said. "Working at a coffee shop." "Coffee? You were a tank commander." "Not anymore." Kowalski was silent. Then he spoke. "Marcus, you saved my life. You saved Jenkins's life. You saved Rodriguez's life. You're our hero. I just did my job." "No," Kowalski said. "You were the head of the family, and we're still your family." A month later, all three came, Jenkins, Rodriguez, and Kowalski. When Marcus saw them, he held his breath. All three men had scars. Jenkins on his leg, Rodriguez on his arm, Kowalski on his face. But all three were standing. All three were alive. "Sergeant," Jenkins said, hugging him, "I can't believe we found you." Rodriguez had tears in his eyes. "Marcus, buddy, we looked for you so much." Kowalski gave him a medal. "Bronze Star. This was yours." He said, But you never took it. We took it for you. Marcus held the medal in his hand. It felt heavy. It felt heavy because it was as heavy as the responsibility he had carried that day. You don't need to thank me, Jenkins said, but let us. Thank you. Today Blue Mountain Café is still open. Marcus still works there, but he's no longer hidden. There's a photo on the wall for men smiling in front of a tank. Below it, a metal plaque, service and sacrifice. Marcus still makes coffee with the same precision. But now he shares his story. He gives jobs to young veterans. He gives free coffee to military families. And his hands, they still carry scars. But he no longer hides them. Because those scars don't just tell of pain. They tell of courage. Not just of loss, but of rescue. One day a young woman came in. Her uniform read Chen. She looked at Marcus, Sergeant Chen. She said, "I'm Captain Chen, your daughter, and I'm proud of you." For Marcus, that moment was worth more than all the medals. Marcus never wanted recognition. He never wanted to tell heroic stories. He had just done his duty, saved his friends, and continued to live quietly. But sometimes silence is the most powerful story. Sometimes people doing ordinary jobs carry extraordinary pasts. And sometimes, in the moment of a fire, your identity emerges because some things cannot be hidden. Courage cannot be hidden. Leadership cannot be hidden. And real soldiers continue to be soldiers even after they take off the uniform. Marcus's hands still carry scars. But now those scars are not something to be ashamed of. They are a sign of honor. Because some people don't just make coffee. They save lives. And they wait until the world recognizes them. Now I ask you, do you know someone like Marcus? Someone doing ordinary jobs, but with an extraordinary past. Write their name in the comments. Share their story. Because at the human stories, no hero should be forgotten. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, subscribe, share. Help keep these voices alive. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, if you see an old man working quietly in a coffee shop, watch his posture. You might be standing next to a legend.